vying for your votes this Friday. Because of our contests here, because we have offered you good candidates, Jurong has become one of the most talked about contests in this general election. People are excited about the outcome of the challenge. We face a tough competitor in Mr. Darman and his team. In the last 9 days, we have fought him bravely. We are very aware that victors are better celebrated and that past July 10, we may be forgotten. Although all eyes are on polling day and on the results it will bring, let me for one moment ask you to look beyond July 10. What kind of Singapore will we have after Friday? Yesterday, Mr. Darman said proposals like allowing Singaporeans to withdraw their CPF monies earlier will hurt Singaporeans and divide Singapore. But really, who is dividing Singapore? It is the PAP which has divided us. And they have divided us just so that they can stay in power. They have divided us by their politics, they have divided us by education, and they have divided us by our race. They have also divided us by our nationalities. They have divided us in so many different ways. In December last year, Prime Minister in waiting, Heng Swee Keat, said older Singaporeans were not ready for a non-Chinese Prime Minister. He was referring to a clamour in some quarters for Mr. Darman to be made PM to lead the 4G leaders. Does the PAP believe that you cannot be a Prime Minister just because of the colour of your skin? From our youngest age, Singaporeans say our pledge. We, the citizens of Singapore, pledge ourselves as one united people, regardless of race, language or religion, to build a democratic society based on justice and equality so as to achieve happiness, prosperity and progress for our nation. If the PAP says someone cannot become a Prime Minister of Singapore because of his race, then they are doing great disservice to the ideals of our pledge, regardless of race, language or religion. When you go to the polling station on Friday, remind yourself that we cannot be divided by race. In the past few days, Facebook closed 2 pro-PAP pages. Why did the social media company close these pages? The first pro-PAP page, which had 250,000 likes, got deleted because they acted in a coordinated and inauthentic manner, often against the alternative parties and its members. The pro-PAP page's main aim was to paint the opposition and its supporters as fringe lunatics and divide them from the rest of Singapore. Facebook acted against them, but the PAP government never did. No POFMA was applied on them. The pro-PAP page, although it claims to be acting independently from the PAP, takes its lead from our Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Hsien Loong. Mr. Lee believes that it would be an injustice to place a Singaporean who voted for the opposition ahead of a Singaporean who voted for the PAP. So, when you go to the polls on July 10, whether you are a PAP supporter, an opposition sympathizer, or a swing voter, ask yourselves if we want to be divided like the USA or Hong Kong. Singaporeans should stop dividing ourselves according to our political convictions. One PAP candidate fielded in this election described himself as such. I remember chasing chickens and climbing trees. In the HDB flats, I played sports every day. And perhaps that may be the reason how I ended up in the normal stream in secondary school. The candidate makes it seem as though children who are from our HDB flats, who play and have fun, cannot succeed. He seems to look down on students who are in the normal stream. Should we make our children who are in the normal stream feel like they are not as good as everyone else? Why? Dr. Tan Wu Meng, in writing a politically motivated article aimed to divide Singaporeans and smear the opposition, said, this man, Alfian Saad, grew up in Singapore. Singapore gave him his education and he earns a living here. An education and a living that is denied to many minorities in the region. Was Dr. Tan, through his writing, insinuating that minorities should be grateful for having been done the special favor of receiving an education from the benevolent majority, and that this goodwill is contingent on Singaporean minorities being subservient and towing the line? Aren't Singaporean minorities full citizens with full democratic and civil rights? Or are we just window dressing that must earn our place? When you go to the polling booth on Friday, remember that it is not good for our children to be divided by which school they go to or which stream they are in. In 2017, when the Indian government was expressing concern that the curbs Singapore was placing on the movement of the Indian professionals to Singapore violate the terms of Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement, or CECA, Mr. Darman spoke up for Singapore and Singaporeans. He said, it is wrong to have a total free flow of people. But on June 1st, 2018, Singapore and India successfully concluded the second review of CECA. Despite Mr. Darman being a good man, was he able to control the free flow of people CECA provided for? Today, a large segment of Singaporeans feel unhappy that foreign talents, who they suspect are not better qualified than Singaporeans, themselves are competing unfairly for jobs in Singapore. Why should Singaporeans feel overwhelmingly negative towards foreigners when a large majority of us are sons and daughters of migrants ourselves? This negative sentiment towards foreigners is a result of the PAP's open door policy. So when you go to vote on Friday, think as a society. Should we be divided by this open door policy? The oft-heard refrain among some swing voters is, there are many good people in the PAP. But when you go to the polling booth on July 10, remember that good people like Darman are complicit by their silence when his party members bully fellow Singaporeans. Good people must have the moral courage to defend the principles of fairness and civility and speak up for fellow citizens who are being trampled upon by their party members. Bullying does nothing to win hearts and minds. Here at Red Dot United, we stand by our mantra, politics with principles and vision with values. Fairness, accountability, integrity, transparency, happiness, hope, and heart are our guiding principles. We will questions like, why are asset-rich but cash-poor pioneer generation Singaporeans who live in private estates not eligible for cash benefits of the pioneer generation package? Because this question is one of fairness. We will ask questions like, what is Ho Ching's salary? Because such questions are questions on accountability. We will ask questions like, can the minister's salary be pegged to multiples of median wages of Singaporeans? Because such questions are linked on happiness for all Singaporeans, not the select few. So, when you go to the polls on Friday, remember that every vote you cast for us, Red Dot United, and our compass symbol, will point our leaders in the right direction for the future. When you vote for us, you vote for hope. Vote for Red Dot United. Thank you. Let me say a few words in Tamil. அன்பான ஜூரோங் குழு தொகுதி வாக்காளர்களே, வரும் வெள்ளிக்கிழமை ஒரு முக்கியமான நாள். உங்களை யார் நாடாளுமன்றத்தில் பிரதிநிதிப்பார் என்பதை நீங்கள் தேர்வு செய்யும் நாள். நீங்கள் உங்கள் வாக்குகளை செலுத்தும் முன்னால் ஒரு நிமிடம் யோசித்து பாருங்கள். நீங்கள் மகிழ்ச்சியாய் இருக்கிறீர்களா? மகிழ்ச்சி என்பது ஒரு தனி மனித உணர்வு மட்டுமல்ல. மகிழ்ச்சி சிங்கப்பூர் உறுதிமொழியில் பொறிக்கப்பட்ட ஒரு முக்கியமான மதிப்பு. நம் சிங்கப்பூர் உறுதிமொழி. சிங்கப்பூர் குடிமக்களாகிய நாம் இனம், மொழி, மதம் ஆகிய வேற்றுமைகளை மறந்து ஒன்றுபட்டு நம் நாடு மகிழ்ச்சி, வளம், முன்னேற்றம் ஆகியவற்றை அடையும் வண்ணம் சமத்துவத்தையும் நீதியையும் அடிப்படையாக கொண்ட ஜனநாயக சமுதாயத்தை உருவாக்குவதற்கு உறுதி மேற்கொள்வோம். அப்படி நீங்கள் மகிழ்ச்சியாய் இல்லை என்றால் அதற்கு என்ன காரணம்? இந்த நெருக்கடி காலத்தில் உங்கள் வேலைகளை இழந்தீர்களா? உங்கள் வியாபாரம் பாதிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளதா? இந்த காரணங்களினால் உங்கள் குடும்ப வாழ்க்கை பாதிக்கப்பட்டுள்ளதா? மன உளைச்சலுக்கு ஆளாகி உள்ளீர்களா? இந்த மக்கள் செயல் கட்சியின் கொள்கைகள் உங்களை இந்த நெருக்கடி காலத்தில் எப்படி பாதுகாத்தன? ஒன்றுபட்ட சிவப்பு புள்ளி கட்சி சிங்கப்பூரர்களின் மகிழ்ச்சியில் குறியாய் உள்ளது. எங்கள் கொள்கை அறிக்கைகளை நீங்கள் பார்த்தால் அது மன நிம்மதி அளிப்பனவாய் இருக்கும். உதாரணத்திற்கு, சிங்கப்பூர் இந்தியர்களுக்கு இன்னும் ஒரு பொது விடுமுறை இருக்க வேண்டும். அது பொங்கலாகவோ அல்லது தைப்பூசமாகவோ இருக்க வேண்டும் என்று நாங்கள் பரிந்துரைத்துள்ளோம். வரும் வெள்ளிக்கிழமை நீங்கள் உங்கள் வாக்குகளை செலுத்தும் போது இந்த மாசேக்கா அரசாங்கத்தை சரியான திசையில் திருப்புவதற்கு உங்களுக்கு ஒரு இடம் இருக்கிறது. நன்றி.
Hello everyone, I will begin my speech in Malay first. Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera kepada semua rakyat Singapura yang dihormati, terutama sekali kepada para penduduk Jurong. Setelah banyak perdebatan mengenai kemampuan flood BTO, Ramai orang Singapura berpendapat bahawa HDB menghargainya terlalu mahal. Untuk perbincangan yang tepat mengenai apakah harga VTO sepatutnya, kami akan memerlukan data yang terperinci untuk menilaikannya. Iaitu menetapkan ketelusan dalam kos pembinaan flat HDB dengan perincian kos tanah dan kos pembangunan adalah penting agar harga flat HDB tepat dan mampu dimiliki. Pemecahan kos untuk flat baru entah bagaimana telah hilang pada tahun 80-an. Maka kami menyarankan pihak HDB untuk kembalikan pemecahan kos flat HDB itu. Kami mensyorkan harga flat baru dengan menggunakan gandaan pendapatan median dan faktor lokasi. Dengan cara ini, warga Singapura dapat membeli flat baru dalam kemampuan pendapatan mereka. Dengan adanya suara pembangkang yang kuat, ia adalah baik untuk Singapura. Saya dapat merasai dan saya juga harap anda dapat merasakan pelbagai kenaikan kos sara hidup sejak pilihan raya 2015. Bil air telah meningkat, kos pengangkutan juga naik, semuanya meningkat. Tetapi pendapatan kami tidak meningkat sewajarnya. Malah kos sara hidup bagi rakyat Singapura semakin tinggi, kan? Globalisasi memperburukkan lagi ketaksamaan dan satu ukuran yang digunakan untuk mengesan ketaksamaan ialah bahagian gaji dalam pendapatan negara. Walaupun Singapura mempunyai salah satu GDP per kapita yang tertinggi di dunia, bahagian gaji kita adalah sekitar 43%, lebih rendah daripada kebanyakan ekonomi maju dan negara lain iaitu dalam lingkungan 50% atau lebih. Ini bermaksud bahawa pekerja di Singapura mempunyai gaji yang berkurangan dan menimbulkan satu pertanyaan, apakah pertumbuhan ekonomi Singapura telah menguntungkan syarikat multinasional dan syarikat korporat privat dengan mengorbankan pekerja mereka? Dasar pengagihan gaji juga cenderung ke arah golongan yang berpendidikan tinggi dan berpendapatan tinggi. Kita mesti menyeru pada pemerintah untuk lebih prihatin apabila melakarkan dasar-dasar yang memanfaatkan rakyat Singapura. Hanya apabila gaji kita meningkat, kita dapat menangani kenaikan kos sara hidup dengan lebih baik. Saya juga ingin mencadangkan bahawa kita membuka semua dialog mengenai isu hijab dalam pekerjaan, terutama dalam sektor perkhidmatan awam. Kedudukan pemerintah dalam pemakaian hijab di tempat kerja adalah sangat bermasalah bagi beberapa pekerjaan yang memerlukan kaki tangan mereka memakai seragam. Kami berpendapat bahawa pemerintah harus melakukan maklum balas untuk mengukur bagaimana perasaan masyarakat lain tentang wanita Islam yang memakai hijab dalam pekerjaan perkhidmatan awam yang saat ini dilarangkan. Ini akan membantu pemerintah untuk memberi penilaian yang lebih objektif. Sangat penting untuk mempunyai penjelasan yang bernas untuk menyokong sebarang penilaian mengenai isu hijab kerana ia memberi kesan ekonomi kepada keluarga Melayu Islam kita juga. Dalam melarang pemakaian tudung dalam pekerjaan sektor perkhidmatan awam, bermaksud peluang pekerjaan itu tersekat bagi wanita Islam yang memilih untuk memakai hijab di tempat kerja. Seperti bagaimana kita menghormati pendapat individu, kita juga harus menghormati pilihan individu. Bolehkah dasar-dasar kita menggambarkan bentuk penghormatan ini? Adalah tugas pemerintah yang terpilih untuk membuat rakyat merasa aman, supaya orang Singapura tahu bahawa ketika mereka kesusahan, mereka dapat dibantu. Marilah kita katakan tidak untuk kenaikan cukai barang dan perkhidmatan GST dalam 5 tahun akan datang. Ini adalah panggilan titik merah bersatu atau lebih dikenali sebagai Red Dot United untuk berlaku adil. Sekiranya anda percaya bahawa kami memerlukan lebih banyak ketelusan, transparansi dari pemerintah, dan jika anda percaya pelan kami untuk mengurangkan kegelisahan rakyat Singapura, dan jika juga anda percaya visi kami tentang masyarakat yang saling bantu-membantu, maka anda perlu memilih kami sebagai anggota parlimen anda. Undilah kami untuk menunjukkan pemerintah ke arah yang benar, yang lebih baik. Undilah Red Dot United. And for now, I'm going to deliver my speech in English. Dear fellow Singaporeans, and especially to our dear Jurong residents, there has been much debate to the affordability of BTO flats, with many Singaporeans arguing that HDB is pricing them too expensively. For an informed discussion on whether BTO prices are justified, we will need detailed breakdowns for the cost of flats. Establish greater transparency in the cost of building HDB flats with a breakdown of land costs and building costs in order to price HDB flats affordably. For one reason or another, the cost breakdowns for new flats somehow disappeared in the late 80s. I have not seen it since. Bring it back, HDB. It is the right thing to do. Price new flats at multiples of medium income and location factor. This will ensure affordability, and as income levels of Singaporeans change through the years, government revenue from flat sales would also rise. Therefore, better aligning the interests of individual and state. This will also incentivize policymakers to grow the wage share of Singaporeans. It was said that a strong opposition is good for Singaporeans. You can see how, after the voters did not give the opposition strong support in the last election, everything from the water bill to the transport prices have all gone up and cost of living increased for Singaporeans. We need to find ways to make our government focus more on growing the wages of ordinary Singaporeans. Only when our salaries increase can we better keep up with the rising cost of living. Let's strive to make policymakers focus more on growing the wages of Singaporeans. Now, globalization aggravates inequality, and one measure used to track this is the share of wages in national income. Despite having one of the highest GDP per capita in the world, our wage share of GDP is around 43%. It's lower than most of the developed economies, which is about 50% or higher. This may mean that workers in Singapore are underpaid and raises question if Singapore's economic growth has disproportionately benefited multinational corporations and capitalist owners at the expense of workers. Wage redistribution policies are also skewed towards better educated top earners. While we are on wage share of Singaporeans and inequality, may I also propose that we reopen the dialogue on hijab and work, primarily in the public service sectors. The government's position is that wearing a Muslim headscarf at the workplace would be very problematic for some professions that requires their staff to be in uniform. We are of the opinion that the government should commission a survey to gauge how other communities feel about Muslim women wearing the hijab in public service occupations that currently prohibits it. This will help the government to decide objectively the way forward. Being inclusive means we do not leave anyone out. It is especially important to have empirical evidence to support any decision on this issue because it has economic impact for Malay Muslim families. Prohibiting the wearing of hijab in certain public sector professions means a restriction of job opportunities for this Muslim woman who chose to wear the hijab. As how we respect individual opinions, we should respect individual choices too. Can our policies reflect this form of respect? Respectfully, let us talk about compassion too now. Compassion is not about handouts. It is not about the receiving end of somebody else's benevolence. Compassion interventions promote social connection. Establishing such connections requires the ability to express care and concern for other people, as well as to identify with them. As we are a highly social species, fostering meaningful relationships is an essential aspect of healthy human adjustment. It is the duty of the elected government to make people feel secure, so that Singaporeans know that when they are down and out, they will be helped. To exercise this, let's say no to the further rise in the GST in the next 5 years, shall we? This is Red Dot's call to fairness. If you believe we need more transparency from our government, if you believe in our plans to reduce the anxiety of our fellow Singaporeans, if you believe in our vision of a compassionate society, then you need to vote for us. Vote to point the government in the right direction. Vote for Red Dot United.
My fellow Singaporeans, as the general elections draws to a close, we appear to be more divided than ever as a nation. This is Red Dot United's call to unity. Singapore must be united as one people if we are to face the problems of the future. As part of this call to unity, I'll be speaking about two issues: the recent spate of racial incidents and climate change. Singapore is a multiracial society with diverse ethnic and cultural makeup. It is therefore important to take extreme care when talking about matters of race. Over the past week, our racial harmony has been tested by a series of police reports. We cannot allow these incidents to fracture our society and divide us. Red Dot United is committed to maintaining racial harmony in Singapore and fostering an equal society regardless of race, language, or religion. Before I speak any further about race and racial discrimination or racial disharmony, perhaps I should first address my own race. Some of you might think that as a member of the majority race in Singapore, I am perhaps less qualified to speak on issues of racial discrimination or racial inequity. After all, what do I know about racial discrimination or the issues that minorities face? I will never have the same experiences as a minority in Singapore. There are also two other candidates on our slate who are minorities. Some of you may think that they should be the ones speaking about this issue. I will admit that as a member of the majority race, I enjoy certain privileges in Singapore, some of which are unquantifiable and unmeasurable. But Red Dot United believes that the content of what you say is more important than your racial identity or even your experiences. We cannot succumb to the type of identity politics which is rampant in the United States, where a person's identity is more important than the content of their ideas. The color of my skin should not preclude me from speaking in this conversation. If we are to resolve our differences, conversation is the most important tool we have. We cannot exclude anyone from speaking by virtue of their ethnicity. Before we can even decide on how to get there, we must first decide where we want to go. Our vision for Singapore is one that is colorblind, where the color of your skin matters no more than the color of your hair. I shall hope very much that there is no disagreement about this vision. Having a colorblind society does not mean that we forsake our ethnic traditions or cultures. We can still cherish and celebrate what makes us unique. But we must realize that we are more similar than we are different. We are not just Chinese Singaporeans, Malay Singaporeans, or Indian Singaporeans. We are Singaporeans, and we bleed the same red and white. If you agree with our vision for Singapore, the next question is how we get there. We believe that we get there by focusing on our similarities rather than our differences. We cannot practice this type of identity politics which is so ingrained in American culture. One of the issues in Singapore is that race is everywhere. From the moment you are born, you need to record what race you are. Look at your identity card now. Your race is printed on that card, as if it is key to what makes up your identity as a human being. When you apply for a HDB, you'll be asked to fill in your race. Our GRC system and reserve elections serve to reinforce the idea that we are an unequal society, unable to elect minorities into positions of power, despite the fact that the most popular politician in Singapore is Mr. Tharman, a minority. We are constantly reminded about our differences rather than our similarities. We need to re-examine these systems. To become colorblind, we must remove race from the consciousness of our society. These are systems that have served us well in the past, and they have aided with racial integration in Singapore. But society is changing, and we must keep up with the times. It is no longer enough to have forced quotas. Forced quotas in residential estates with the vague hope that this will somehow encourage social cohesion. We need to focus on what makes us Singaporean rather than what drives us apart. We need to build a cohesive identity as a people rather than as separate races. This is Red Dot United's call to unity, to move towards not just a racially tolerant society, but to a society where your race does not matter. Let me now speak on the second matter, which relies not just on the political will of the government, but the unity of the people to execute it. Climate change is an existential threat, not only to Singapore, but to the world. As part of the global community, Singapore must do her part. To that end, Red Dot United will be releasing a mini charter to deal solely with the issues of climate change. Red Dot Goes Green. We want to advocate for a National Climate Change Act. This act will serve as an action plan which will lay out strategies and initiatives to guide Singapore. We note that there is already a National Climate Change Secretariat, which was set up in 2010 to eliminate climate change issues in Singapore. However, this was merely a committee under the PMO and is not guaranteed in the law. A climate change act would be binding on this government and all future governments. We note that the government has introduced a $100 billion plan to combat climate change. However, we would want to see more transparency and more accountability on where this money would be from and how it would be spent. Red Dot United wants to push the government to give a proper breakdown on spending to ensure that, first, our reserves would not be overdrawn, and second, the spending would benefit Singaporeans and Singapore companies, with foreign advisors hired only as necessary to work with our people. As part of the move towards a car-light society, we will advocate for a fundamental review of the way Singapore is designed. Singapore is still a very car-friendly society, more so than a public transport-friendly society. We need to look at our streets and and transport networks so that future designs will accommodate alternative means of transport like bicycles and PMDs. We will also advocate for studies on better recycling plans in countries like Japan or Germany. We need to make it as convenient as possible so more people will take up recycling. If elected, this will be part of our Jurong plan. To implement an effective recycling, waste managing, and composting program for Jurong residents. For a more detailed outline of our plans, please check our new charter on our website. People are at the center of everything we do. Even in the middle of our busy campaigning, we have not neglected SAF Day last week or Youth Day this Monday. Do check our Facebook page for the various suggestions we have for these groups of people. This is Red Dot United's call to unity. We must be united as Singaporeans regardless of race, and we must be united in the fight against climate change. If you believe in our vision of a colorblind society, if you believe that we are more similar than we are different, if you believe in our plans to combat climate change, then you need to vote for us. Vote to point the government in the right direction. Vote for Red Dot United.
Hello everyone, I'm Red Dot United's Alec Talk. Thank you for joining us this second time in our rally broadcast. I promised the last time to talk to you about the arts and the gig economy, so I'll just go straight into it, okay? Now, if you are worried about your children beginning to develop a love for the arts and wanting to make a living in the arts, well, you're not alone. When I started, I was also very worried about going into the arts because I was very clear that it was difficult to make a living in the arts because we were a young country, we didn't really have an audience, we didn't have people who consume arts like the capitals of the world, New York, Paris. So making a living in the arts is very difficult. I was also very aware that will I be able to make a living and raise a family? Well, I was right and I was wrong. I was right in that I was able to make a decent living, but I couldn't really raise a family with the income that I derived from the arts. You see, I was afraid, so I didn't dare to have children. So I waited till I was very much more established in my 40s before I thought about having my own family. And by that time, it was almost too late. But because I was lucky, I was living in New York at that time, and I had access to some of the best IVF facilities in the world. So now, I'm an older but happy father of 2 children. But I don't want this to happen to other Singaporeans who want to make a career in the arts. So, we at Red Dot United, this is what we propose. Because we understand the nature of artwork, you see, art making and art creating. You see, unlike other industries, the artist's income is not regular. Sometimes it takes a long time for a project to get done, and there are big gaps in between projects. So how do you find income in between? Many teach. Yeah, many teach. But when you teach, you want to devote yourself and your time to your students, which sometimes takes you away from the solitude that's needed to gestate, ruminate, and create. So that's why you see many artists like Mr. Liu Kang and Mr. Lin Ziping only coming into their own as Culture Medallion winners after they retired from their jobs as art teachers. So as you can see, the problem was in the nature of the creative process, but also the way that there is no proper income support for freelance artists in between projects, and also definitely a lack of medical insurance and old age benefits. At RDU, we propose an insurance scheme with adequate government underwriting and funding to provide grants for in-between projects and medical insurance and an old age stipend for artists who work beyond the age of 63. I hope this will allow more Singaporeans to be able to eke out a living in the arts and of course allay the parents' fears. Another idea I want to propose is to extend the tote board's grant for lower ticket prices for certain projects for students to the wider public. You see, at present, right, schools can apply to the tote board, which makes their money from the 4D collection, right, to get grants to defray ticket prices for certain productions for their students. So, for example, a $60 ticket can be reduced to $35 with a grant from the tote board for certain productions. We should extend this to more productions available to the public. I mean, right now, you know, a family of 5 going to a theatre event costs something like $300. What happens is that only those who can really afford it can do this, which means that children from poorer families, they are disadvantaged. We must do something about this. One way to fund this scheme extension, is to take a leaf from Stockholm, Sweden. where 1% of all building projects are allocated for publicly accessible artworks, like sculptures or performance spaces in each building. We can adapt this scheme to include performances and art activities around the vicinity of these buildings. Well, I want to segue from this to address what Mr. Chan Chun Sing has been saying about how we will be losing many jobs in the coming months and how the PAP will be creating 100,000 jobs. Well, we welcome that, because indeed in the next few months and even next couple of years, things will be very difficult. Well, that is why we at Red Dot United think that just creating these 100,000 temporary jobs is not good enough. We need to think about and succeed in creating stable and long-term employment for the next few years. And given that so much is learned on the job, Mr. Chan should consider creating the jobs first, and then let us do OJT, on-the-job training. You know, Mr. Chan Chun Sing should really take a leaf from his seniors in the 70s, in the 1970s, when they created the National Productivity Board that ensured employment for hundreds of thousands of workers for years. His 4G colleagues must measure up to their seniors in the past. Otherwise, I really suggest you, the voter, put your trust in people beyond the PAP. This week, one hot topic has been whether or not Mr. Heng Swee Keat did or did not talk about a 10 million population target. With all due respect, I think that is not the point. The more important point is whether or not Singaporean workers are protected in their jobs from foreign interference and from foreign displacement. Years and years of this relentless loose labour policy has led to our local workforce taking on only the lousier jobs, like Grab driving and tour guiding, while the natural aristocracy and their foreign corporate friends bring in labour from around the region to undercut our wages. This must stop. This must stop. This must stop. Even Taman has said that SICA, Singapore's Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Agreement signed with India, is too loose. And the resulting free-for-all import of professionals and workers is wrong. Taman says it's wrong. I think the 4G leadership should not dismiss this advice by Taman. In conclusion, I want to encourage you to take a closer look at how the PAP's tactics during elections have not changed over the years. Instead of having a proper debate with the opposition, they alarm voters with fear-mongering language about minority incidents and cast aspersions on the integrity of candidates like Paul Tambaya. What they should have done is to debate the issues. Tell us where they went wrong during the COVID-19 response, apologize, and ask for all Singaporeans to unite together to move beyond the pandemic. Singaporeans will do that if you acknowledge your failures and ask to be given a chance again. But no, they pretend that we cannot see that they had made serious mistakes in their handling of the crisis. Pretend that we cannot see. Instead, they divide Singaporeans by inciting fears, by resorting to making police reports and issuing POFMA orders. Do you think a government that cannot change its tactics during election can change themselves to do something different in a changing world? You know the answer. No. The vote is yours. Say no to the PAP. Thank you.
Hello dear residents. Hello dear residents of Jurong GRC, and a warm welcome to any others who may be watching us. Thank you for giving us your time. Today we would like to focus on sharing our vision of how life for Singaporeans could be made better, like the air after one of our heavy thunderstorms, cool and clear and refreshing. We know Singapore is facing tough times ahead of us, but this is the exact time that we can use to pause and shift the direction in which Singapore was heading. You know that things have happened very quickly for us here at Red Dot United, but we believe it is always important to take a step back and think through what is important to us as a nation and what should guide us into the future. That is why we come to you as a solid team, working together and heading in the same direction. We will put the people of Singapore first, at the front and center of our policies. We believe that in order to look at how things can get better, we need to first look at what could be improved. I have listened to the speeches made by our ministers and by our Prime Minister. What I heard was that PAP has done very well and they will continue to do more of the same, since there is no problem and they feel they are doing the right things. Now, what I would like to talk about may not seem directly related to COVID-19 situation or the immediate issues that we are facing, but they are fundamental issues, and we as a people really need to examine them and understand that they are problematic. Let us begin to fix the very roots of our problems so that we can mature as a country and progress boldly into the future together. The first point I would like to make is that outside of the government, we are not given very much information at all. Even when international organizations calculate rankings and statistics, I have been told that Singapore is often reluctant to provide raw data. The government will ask how a measure is calculated and then provide those statistics instead. There's too much we do not know, too much that the government tells us we do not need to know. Even when ex-President Ong Teng Cheong asked once how much was in the reserves, he did not receive a proper answer. Curious indeed, considering that part of the President's job is to safeguard the reserves. When the government feels they have a right not to give us information, we are kept in the dark. The people, the press, academics, economists, we are all unable to tell what is really going on. The systems become obscured. There is a lack of fairness and accountability. And without transparency, much is shrouded in darkness. The government can POFMA comments without releasing what is the actual fact to support their claim. This asymmetry of information not only works against a robust system of good governance, it can also be used against what is in the best interests of the people. Red Dot United believes that being open helps keep us honest, and as citizens, we must have the right to information. A member of Parliament who asks a question needs to be given an answer in Parliament, not told in reply, "What is the point of your question?" That is why Red Dot United advocates strongly for government accountability. Transparency is essential, and we will not falter in our call for a Freedom of Information Act, because this is in Singapore's best interests. I quote from the Human Rights NGO Article 19, which describes information as the oxygen of democracy, and the UN Human Development Report, which describes informed debate as the lifeblood of democracies. How can it be that even though our Prime Minister's own wife heads one of our two sovereign wealth funds, We don't know what her remuneration is, and economists themselves, who have scrutinized their annual reports, say the figures for Temasek Holdings are a mystery to them. Temasek manages over 300 billion of Singapore's money, is a state-owned enterprise, and holds large shares of many of Singapore's large companies, including DBS, Capital Land, Sabana, ST Engineering, PSA, SMRT, SIA, and many others. Several of its investments over years have been described by international press as spectacular misjudgments. Madam Ho Ching has been the CEO of Temasek for 16 years now, the same amount of time as her husband has been our Prime Minister. Put these facts to any child, and they may be as uneasy as you or I. In Economics 101, we learn that information is power. That is why governments need to be regulators to prevent abuses of such power. Failing that, it is the people who must question their leaders. This brings me to my second point, which is about conflicts of interest. Our government, as mentioned earlier, holds significant stakes in many of our large businesses that dominate our domestic economy. Not only does this place the government in conflict and competition with our local small and medium enterprises, it becomes natural for the government to view us as customers and digits, rather than as individuals and valued citizens to whom they owe a duty of care. Can you serve both money and people? There would be numerous scenarios where the interests of profits and care for the people would conflict. Take our army of foreign workers. We have hundreds of thousands of them, a fact that we are acutely aware of given the 3-digit new COVID-19 cases of foreign workers diagnosed daily over the past few months. Each of these workers represents hundreds of dollars paid to the government in levies every single month. Cutting down on the numbers then means reducing a significant income stream to the government coffers. The wages paid to our Singaporean workers, employers see this as a cost, and it is in their interests to keep wages low. And the government and GRCs are some of the biggest employers in Singapore. A government which cares about the good of its people and workers would prioritize the interests of workers. But how can it do so when this would be in conflict with the government's own interests? Let's look at healthcare. Each of us knows how unexpectedly illnesses may come upon us, and many have told us of their treatment bills. I have heard several times that patients are told that they could go home, but if they stayed one night in hospital, the insurance would pay their bill. The items on the final bill are also sometimes inaccurate. If insurance pays for this, the patient is not as mindful. However, this feeds back into high premiums deducted from our CPF accounts. And this means for all Singaporeans. Who benefits? Is it SingHealth and other holding companies? Who pays the ultimate costs? Clearly, our people do. There's actually a term for this. It is called moral hazard. If a person can reap the rewards of his actions, but have someone else bear the risks, that is moral hazard. It is why we have proposed policies which are very different from what we have now. By putting people back at the center of our nation's policies, we remind the PAP that the happiness and standard of living of the people is their main job, their priority, not the numbers in the annual reports of the GRCs and government budgets. We appreciate the large sums the government COVID-19 budgets are giving to help the people. However, we do caution that the money that has been set aside, does it really help the right people who need it? Or is there a lot of fine print and requirements that must first be met in order to qualify for aid, as the Medifund system works, as several government handouts and helping schemes work. When the government gives handouts, it is on a suka-suka basis. When the government refuses any applications or requests, they also reserve the right not to explain the reason behind it. This means that we have no assurances as to the help that we receive. No security or peace of mind is being offered here. There is a big difference between having legislation that provides for supplemental income for those below the poverty line or for our elderly poor, legislation that protects our workers, legislation that protects our jobs, and legislation that puts in place national health insurance, and the occasional rebates, vouchers, and offsets. The difference is that one is given at a timing suitable for the PAP, and the other will be there all the time. It becomes a duty and a responsibility of the government rather than a handout where they position themselves as the generous donor. This brings me to my last point, which is about the strong versus the weak. As the strong big brother or fatherly figure, strength, money, power, numbers are all on the side of the incumbent PAP. Yet, when we look at how resistant the PAP is to reform, to taking the high road, to implementing a free and fair system and electoral process, we have to question, what have they done with a strong mandate all these years? Daily life in Singapore has been politicized to the extent that community work or upgrading of our HDB flats or help with traffic police summons or even use of the basketball courts necessitate approaching the ruling party's people for help. The need for control is so high that choices are removed from us. Decisions are forced from us. They were unable to allow us free choice in the last presidential election, and we see a strong hand used even against the Prime Minister's own family members, his younger sister and brother, his sister-in-law, his nephew. The message is clear. Power lies firmly in the hands of the PAP, and they will not hesitate to wield it. There is only one solution to this imbalance, just as there is one solution to a schoolyard bully, and that is people. People are the answer. If enough people come forward to send a clear signal that our freedoms and choices are important to us, that our livelihoods and jobs are necessary to our survival and dignity, and that our families and children should grow up in a Singapore they love and want to have their own children in, if enough people point our country in the right direction, we can have a better Singapore. Our suggestions for a post-COVID-19 plan are clearly laid out in our Charter for the Future. Please visit red.united.sg. We have also categorized them into 3 main goals that all our efforts will be directed at. First, improving the lives of Singaporeans and reducing their anxiety through lowering business costs for SMEs, supporting good long-term jobs for Singaporeans, strengthening unions, lowering healthcare costs, improving income supplements for those below the poverty line. 2, creating more options and choices for Singaporeans, being able to assess your savings in your CPF, more broad-based education with less focus on examinations, greater flexibility for HDB purchases and renewals. 3, getting Singapore truly ready for the future. More support for SMEs instead of the larger GLCs, smaller class sizes for neighbourhood schools, critical thinking and creativity built into our curriculum, and jobs matching skills training for our people, and focus on climate change policies. Our plans are not old and tired, as our Prime Minister suggested in his rally speech. On the contrary, they are pointing in a direction we have not gone in before. We have explained why it is difficult for the PAP or anyone from the PAP to do so. They have too much to lose. Unless the people show them that they need to muster the political will in putting the people of Singapore front and centre. Let us bear in mind my daughter's favourite quote from Harry Potter, where Dumbledore says to Minister Fudge, "You are blinded by the love of the office that you hold, Cornelius." Now let's talk about the Tharman factor. We've said it a few times. He is the most popular PAP minister. We like him too. Many residents want to support us and vote for us, but they are worried about a government without a Tharman. So once again, Red Dot United thought long and hard, and we have come up with a solution to this dilemma. We are well aware of a petition going around calling for Senior Minister Tharman to be made the next Prime Minister. Sorry, we didn't sign it. It's because no matter how many people and how many signatures you get on there, it won't matter. A survey by Yahoo showed that 7 in 10 Singaporeans supported, not just accepted, Tharman for the next Prime Minister. But it doesn't matter how many of the people ask for this. This decision is not in your hands or mine. The PAP gave a certain reason. Many find this reason distasteful. But really, just like the initial call not to wear masks, we will never know if this is the real reason. It could be he's a victim of his own success after gaining the highest score in Jurong GRC last general election. Now you and I know the choice of Prime Minister is left up to the PAP CEC. Our petition or votes will not matter. They will not choose him as the next Prime Minister. They have made it clear. However, there is one way, and one way only, in which your vote will matter. That is in the presidential election to come in 2023. Your vote determines our national head of state. Just as Jurong GRC contributed Madam Halima, where she was first elected as an MP in 2001, Jurong GRC can once again support another of its MPs into the highest office in the land. This is a win-win situation, with Red Dot United as your members in Parliament and Tharman for President. So residents of Jurong GRC, come Friday, 10th of July, please vote without hesitation for Red Dot United.
Dear voters of Jurong GRC, you have sent us some questions on Facebook. Although we may not be able to answer all your questions because it takes time to note that questions down and to give justice to that question, we have taken some of them down and I hope to answer them here now. But keep your questions coming. We will answer them. We will try and answer to every question that comes in, either through the messenger or through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And we are on all these media, including YouTube. Please do check us out. The first question which came to us is, politics with integrity means getting votes based on what you can offer, not telling us how bad the PAP is. Tell us what you are going to do. Sometimes to fix problems, you have to identify the problem. Red Dot United has kept integrity as one of our core values in this election. We have not taken a hit below the belt or given a punch below the belt. We have always kept to the high roads. But it is inevitable that sometimes when we talk about problems, that we have to talk about people as well. Because people or a band of people sometimes form part of the problem. And we do have plans for Jurong. We did not only come out with one charter, which most other political parties do. We have a charter called Captains of Your Own Lives, which is on our website. And today, we released another charter, the Green Charter. And our plans for Singapore are listed in this charter. Please do take your time to read through our plans and our vision for Singapore and Singaporeans in this charter. The second question, we would love to hear more about the Green Charter and not just about mitigating and surviving climate change, but actually fighting it and directing from industries that exacerbate the problem. We did mention in our Green Charter that we believe in reducing the reliance on petrochemical industries. So our Green Charter is only the starting point. It was crafted by the younger members in our party. After this election, we will be holding a forum where we hope to engage young people and climate activists to walk alongside us and guide us in making this Green Charter a better document. And another question, could I ask if the only thing you are proposing is the Green Charter? Aren't there other more pressing issues like mental health care? We agree. The climate change is one very big, important issue that we have to talk about. But there are many pressing issues which Singapore has to confront together as well, which is why our charter, Captains for Life, or Captains of Your Own Lives and Your Own Families, we talk about reducing anxiety, about creating more options for Singapore and Singaporeans, and about making Singapore future ready. We believe that by having these three ingredients in the charter, we would be able to be captains of our own lives. And another question says, I swear I would like to vote for you, but can't get a clean picture of what you can do for us. We will be releasing our Jurong plan called Let's Captain Jurong Together at 6 p.m. today. We will list out our plans and vision for Jurong, which voters in Jurong can go have a look at it. We believe that there are plans to make Jurong and Jurong voters stronger and stronger for the future. And not only the Jurong plan, right? Our big message, if you heard us through this campaign period, Our big message is that Singaporeans must be given more choices. The policies which inhibit Singaporeans from being more self-reliant must be made more flexible. Because only when policies are more flexible and Singaporeans given more choices can we become the captains of our own lives. This must be supplemented by a wide safety net to catch as many people as possible who fall through the crack. That has been our big message. I think those are the 5 questions that have come through to us for which we are able to answer right now. But keep your questions coming. We are ready to answer to you. Transparency and accountability is 2 of our very most important core values, and we will be as transparent as possible to our voters in Jurong. Thank you.